My name is Ashley, and I'm 28 years old. I never thought my own family would leave me stranded at a train station in the middle of winter as a joke, but that's exactly what happened last Christmas. I was left standing there with no money, no ticket, and temperatures below freezing as they laughed about it on video call. Before I tell you how I went from the family doormat to finally standing up for myself, drop a comment letting me know where you're watching from, and subscribe if you've ever had to deal with toxic family members. Growing up, I never realized my family was different from others. I always thought every family had their unique way of showing love. And in my family's case, it was through what they called pranks. My family consists of my parents, Margaret and Robert, my older brother Jason, who's 32, and my younger sister Brittany, who's 24. From the outside, we looked like the perfect American family. Mom was a school teacher, Dad was an accountant, my brother followed in Dad's footsteps, my sister was studying to be a nurse, and I carved my own path as a graphic designer. The pranks started when we were kids. Jason would put plastic spiders in my bed, Brittany would hide my homework, and my parents would laugh it off, saying, "It's just a joke, Ashley." As we grew older, the pranks escalated. On my 16th birthday, they pretended to forget the whole day, only to surprise me at dinner. While most people would find that sweet, they let me cry the entire day, ignored my calls, and told extended family to do the same. When I expressed how hurt I was, they called me too sensitive and said I can't take a joke. This pattern continued into adulthood. When I graduated from college, they told me they couldn't make it to the ceremony due to a family emergency. I spent the whole day worried sick, only to find out they were hiding in the back row and wanted to surprise me. They filmed my reaction when I found out. Not joy, but confusion and hurt that quickly had to be masked, because showing negative emotions would lead to more ridicule. Despite all this, I remained the reliable one in the family. When Brittany got engaged last year, I planned her entire wedding for free, despite being in the middle of a huge project at work. I designed her invitations, website, and even drove around town scouting venues. When Jason moved 3 times in 1 year, I was there each time, packing boxes, cleaning his old place, setting up the new one. When my parents decided to renovate their house, I spent 2 weeks of my vacation time helping them move furniture, pick paint colors, and deal with contractors. All this while being the butt of family jokes. "Ashley is so uptight," they'd say. Or, "Don't mind Ashley, she never gets the joke." Or my personal favorite, "Ashley's the practice child. We made all our parenting mistakes with her." I've spent the last 6 years building my career as a graphic designer in Chicago. I live alone in a small but comfortable apartment downtown, close enough to walk to the office when the weather permits. Last year, I finally got the promotion I'd been working toward, senior design lead at my firm, overseeing a team of 4 other designers. It's a job I love, with people who respect my work and my boundaries. Setting boundaries with my family, however, has always been a struggle. Every time I tried to establish limits, like asking them not to call me during work hours unless it was an emergency, or requesting they give me notice before dropping by my apartment, I was met with resistance. "Family comes first, Ashley," my mother would say. Or my father would chime in with, "Since when did you become too important for your family?" Last Christmas, I missed the family gathering because of a major client presentation that couldn't be rescheduled. The fallout was tremendous. Weeks of guilt-tripping texts, my mother telling relatives I chose work over family, and my sister posting passive-aggressive social media updates about people who forget where they came from. I promised myself this year would be different. I requested time off 3 months in advance, finished all my pending projects early, and even took on extra work in November so that I could have a clean break during the holidays. I spent hundreds of dollars on thoughtful gifts, a leather portfolio for my dad, a spa package for Mom, a custom gaming chair for Jason, and the designer handbag Brittany had been eyeing for months. I wanted this Christmas to be perfect, to maybe finally earn the respect and consideration I'd been craving from my family. The plan was to spend a week at my parents' house in Michigan, about a 6-hour train ride from Chicago. I suggested driving, but my family insisted I take the train. The roads are terrible this time of year, my mother said. Plus, this way, you can relax and read during the journey instead of focusing on driving, added my father. It seemed reasonable at the time, so I agreed. The weeks leading up to Christmas were hectic but exciting. I spent evenings after work carefully selecting and wrapping gifts, making sure each one was perfect. I wanted to show my family how much I cared, hoping that maybe this year they would finally see me as an adult, worthy of respect, rather than the family punching bag. My boss was understanding about my time off, though he did mention how rare it was for me to take a full week away from the office. You deserve it, Ashley, he told me. Just make sure you actually relax. No checking emails or taking calls. I promised I would disconnect completely, eager for family time despite our complicated history. I booked my train ticket a month in advance, a round trip from Chicago to a small station about 30 minutes from my parents' house in rural Michigan. The outbound journey was scheduled for December 23rd, with a return on December 30th. It cost almost $200, not including the checked baggage fee for all the gifts I was bringing. The day before my departure, my mother called to confirm the pickup arrangements. "We'll all be there to get you, sweetie," she said, an unusual enthusiasm in her voice. "What time does your train arrive again?" 4:30 in the afternoon, I reminded her. "It's about a 6-hour journey from Chicago. And you're sure that's the time? It won't be earlier or later?" she pressed. "That's what my ticket says," I confirmed, finding her insistence a bit strange. "Why do you ask?" "Oh, no reason," she replied quickly. "We just want to make sure we're all there to welcome you. It's been so long since you've been home for Christmas." Later that evening, my sister Brittany texted asking for the exact train number and arrival track. Again, I found it odd but assumed they were just being thorough. Then my brother called. "Hey Ash, we've got a plan for when you arrive tomorrow," Jason said cryptically. "A plan? What kind of plan?" I asked, immediately wary. "Nothing bad," he laughed. "Just a little welcome committee thing. Mom's idea. You know how she gets about Christmas." I did know. Despite everything, my mother loved creating magical holiday moments. I imagined they might have made a welcome sign or planned a special dinner. The thought warmed me, making me think perhaps this year really would be different. That night, just as I was finishing packing, my boss called with an emergency. Our biggest client was unhappy with the final designs for their holiday campaign, and they needed revisions by morning. As the team lead, it fell to me to fix the situation. "I'm so sorry, Ashley," my boss said. "I know you're leaving tomorrow, but if we don't get this right, we could lose the account." "It's fine," I assured him, already opening my laptop. "I'll handle it." I stayed up all night redesigning the campaign, finally finishing around 4 in the morning. With my train departing at 10, that left me barely enough time for a quick shower and coffee before rushing to the station. I was exhausted but relieved that I'd managed to solve the problem without having to delay my trip. The morning was a blur of last-minute packing and triple-checking I had everything: gifts, clothes, toiletries, phone charger, and my ticket. The weather report showed heavy snow in Michigan, so I packed extra sweaters and my thickest coat. As I locked my apartment door, I felt a mix of excitement and apprehension. Family gatherings were always emotionally complicated for me, but I was determined to make this one work. I texted my family that I was on my way to the station. Almost immediately, my phone lit up with responses. "Mom, can't wait to see you, sweetie. Text us when you board." "Dad, safe travels. What car number are you in again?" "Jason, the countdown begins. See you at 4:30 sharp." "Brittany, so excited for our plan. You're going to love it." That last text made me pause. There was something about the way she emphasized love that triggered a familiar uneasiness in my stomach. It reminded me of the tone they used right before a prank, but I pushed the thought away. Surely they wouldn't prank me during Christmas travel. That would be taking things too far, even for them. At the station, I checked my large suitcase, keeping only a small bag with essentials for the journey. As promised, I texted my family when I boarded the train, settling into my seat and sending them a selfie with the caption, All aboard. See you soon. The responses came quickly. Mom, you look tired, honey. Get some rest on the train. Dad, did you remember to bring the dessert recipe I asked for? Jason, looking forward to picking you up. It's going to be memorable. Brittany, everything is set for your arrival. Can't stop laughing thinking about it. Again, something about their messages seemed off, especially Brittany's. Why would she be laughing about picking me up from the train station? But I was too exhausted from the all-night work session to dwell on it. As the train pulled out of Chicago, I leaned back in my seat and closed my eyes, hoping to catch a few hours of sleep before arriving in Michigan. The gentle rocking of the train combined with my exhaustion from the all-nighter meant I slept for most of the journey. I woke up just as we were pulling into the small Michigan station, feeling groggy but excited to see my family. Outside the window, snow was falling heavily, covering the platform in a thick white blanket that glittered under the station lights. The temperature display on the train showed a frigid 10 degrees Fahrenheit. I gathered my belongings and sent a quick text to my family group chat. Just arrived. At the station now. No immediate response came, but I wasn't concerned. Cell reception was spotty in this rural area, and they were probably already in the parking lot. I made my way to the baggage claim to collect my large suitcase with all the Christmas gifts, then headed to the main entrance of the station. The station was small, just a waiting area with a few wooden benches, a ticket counter, and a small cafe that was already closing for the day. There were only a handful of other passengers, most quickly greeted by waiting family members and disappearing into the snowy evening. I stood near the entrance, watching the parking lot for any sign of my family's SUV. 5 minutes passed, then 10, then 20. I tried calling each family member individually. No answer from anyone. I sent another text to the group. I'm at the main entrance. Where are you guys? After 30 minutes of waiting, my phone finally rang. It was a video call from my sister. Relief flooded through me as I answered. Brittany, where are you all? I've been waiting for... My words died in my throat as the camera focused on my entire family, seated around our dining table at home, plates of food in front of them, all wearing amused expressions. Surprise! They shouted in unison, before dissolving into laughter. What? What's going on? I asked, confusion turning to dread as I noticed they were clearly in the middle of dinner, not on their way to pick me up. My brother Jason took the phone from Brittany, his face split with a grin. We canceled your return ticket as a Christmas prank. There's no way back tonight. What? I stammered, not understanding. But I'm here now. I need you to come pick me up. That's the prank, Ashley, my mother chimed in, wiping tears of laughter from her eyes. We're not coming. We wanted to see your face when you realized you're stranded. The reality of the situation began to sink in. They weren't coming. They had deliberately left me stranded at a rural train station, in freezing temperatures, as night was falling. This isn't funny, I said, my voice shaking. The station's closing soon. The last bus left an hour ago. How am I supposed to get to the house? You should see your face right now, Jason howled, turning the phone so everyone at the table could see my expression. It's priceless. We were betting on how long you'd wait before calling, my father added, raising his wine glass in a mock toast. I said 45 minutes, but your mother thought you'd catch on sooner. Guys, please, I pleaded, feeling panic rise in my chest as I noticed the station attendant beginning to lock up some of the doors. There's no Uber service out here. I called the local taxi company, but they're not operating due to the snow. I checked the hotel across the street, but they're fully booked for the holiday. Oh, Ashley, my mother sighed, still smiling. You need to learn to take a joke. This is why we did this. You're always so serious about everything. This is going to go viral in our family group, Brittany giggled, already typing on her phone. Cousin Emma is going to die when she sees your reaction. I stood there, phone in hand, utterly bewildered by their callousness. The station attendant approached me, a sympathetic look on his face. Ma'am, I'm sorry, but we're closing in 30 minutes. Is someone coming to pick you up? I lowered my phone, momentarily muting the call. I thought so. But there seems to be a misunderstanding. Do you know if there's any way to get to Oak Ridge from here tonight? He shook his head. Not in this weather, I'm afraid. Last bus left at 3, and the taxi services shut down when the snow advisory came in. I unmuted the call, desperation in my voice. Guys, this isn't a joke anymore. I have nowhere to go. Please, someone needs to come get me. Relax, Jason said dismissively. Just get a hotel room for the night. We'll come get you tomorrow. Maybe. This last word sent them into another round of laughter. I already told you the hotel is full, I snapped, my patience finally breaking. And you canceled my return ticket, so I can't even go back to Chicago. Well, you should have checked if there was a hotel before getting off the train, my father responded, his tone suddenly defensive, as if I was the unreasonable one. That's not our fault. How would I know to check for a hotel when I was expecting my family to pick me up like they promised? I shot back, tears of frustration beginning to form. See, this is exactly why we did this, my mother interjected. You're overreacting, as usual. It's just a little inconvenience. You'll figure it out. Yeah, stop being so dramatic, Brittany added. This is why you're always left out of family stuff. You ruin the fun. The station attendant was now looking at me with open concern, clearly overhearing the conversation. I felt a mixture of humiliation and rage building inside me. I have to go, I said flatly, and ended the call before they could respond. As I stood there, clutching my phone, a single tear escaped down my cheek. I quickly wiped it away, not wanting to break down in front of strangers. But the reality of my situation was beginning to hit me hard. I was stranded at a closed station, in freezing temperatures, with night falling and nowhere to go. My phone buzzed with text messages. Jason. Aw, come on, don't be mad. It's Christmas. Brittany. Your face was so funny. Worth it. Mom. Ashley, don't be difficult. Find somewhere to stay and we'll talk tomorrow. Dad. This is why nobody can joke with you. You take everything too personally. I silenced my phone and slipped it into my pocket, too overwhelmed to read any more of their messages. The weight of years of similar pranks and dismissals came crashing down on me all at once. This wasn't just about tonight. It was about a lifetime of being treated as less important, less deserving of consideration than everyone else in my family. The station attendant, whose name tag read Nathan, cleared his throat gently. Ma'am, is everything all right? I couldn't help overhearing. I looked up at him, trying to maintain my composure. My family, they thought it would be funny to cancel my return ticket and not pick me up. They knew I'd be stranded here. Nathan's expression changed from concern to shock. They did that on purpose? As a joke? I nodded, embarrassed to admit that my own family would do something so cruel. That's not a joke, he said firmly. I don't even know what to call that. And in that moment, hearing a stranger acknowledge how messed up the situation was, something inside me broke. Or maybe it finally mended. For the first time, I saw my family's behavior through an outsider's eyes, and it was undeniably cruel. The station was now empty, except for me and Nathan. The cafe had closed, the ticket counter was shut, and the last of the other passengers had long gone. Outside, the snow continued to fall heavily, and the temperature display now showed 7 degrees. We're closing in 15 minutes, Nathan said apologetically. I wish I could help more. I sat on one of the wooden benches, surrounded by my luggage and the expensive gifts I'd carefully selected for people who clearly didn't care about my well-being. My phone battery was down to 20%, and I had no charger in my carry-on bag. I had enough cash for maybe a cheap meal, but certainly not for emergency accommodation, which wouldn't matter anyway since there was nowhere to stay. I don't know what to do, I admitted, the reality of my situation setting in. I literally have nowhere to go tonight. Nathan hesitated, then made a decision. Look, I'm not supposed to do this, but you can stay in the station office until morning. It's not comfortable, but it's warm, and there's a couch. I can't leave you out in this weather. I looked up at him, surprised by this kindness from a complete stranger when my own family had abandoned me. Are you sure? I don't want to get you in trouble. It's Christmas, he said simply. And what your family did? He shook his head. That's not a prank. That's abuse. His words hit me like a physical blow. Abuse. I'd never thought of it that way before. They were just pranks, just jokes, just my family's way of having fun, weren't they? Nathan helped me move my luggage into the small office at the back of the station. It was basic: a desk, a small couch, a mini fridge, and a microwave, but it was warm and safe. I was about to eat my dinner, he said, pulling a container from the fridge. It's just pasta, but there's enough to share. I couldn't take your food, I protested, but my stomach growled loudly, betraying me. I hadn't eaten since a quick coffee and bagel before boarding the train that morning. Please, he insisted. I live 5 minutes away. I can grab something else when I get home. We sat in the office as he divided the pasta into 2 paper plates. Nathan was about my age, maybe a year or 2 older. He had kind eyes and a gentle way of speaking that immediately put me at ease. How long have you worked here? I asked, trying to make conversation and distract myself from my situation. 3 years, he replied. It's not exciting, but it's steady work. I'm actually studying to be a therapist. I take online classes between trains. A therapist? I repeated, finding the coincidence almost too perfect. That explains why you're so good at handling a stranger's breakdown, he smiled. You're not having a breakdown. You're having a normal reaction to an abnormal situation. That phrase, a normal reaction to an abnormal situation, echoed in my mind. Had I been normalizing abnormal treatment my entire life? After Nathan left, promising to return first thing in the morning to check on me, I was alone with my thoughts for the first time in what felt like forever. The office was quiet, except for the occasional sound of wind and snow against the windows. My phone, now at 15% battery, continued to buzz with messages from my family, but I couldn't bring myself to read them. Instead, I scrolled through old photos, seeing past pranks with new eyes. There was my college graduation, where they pretended to be absent. My 25th birthday, when they told me the restaurant had canceled our reservation, making me wait outside in the rain for 30 minutes before revealing they were already inside. Last Thanksgiving, when they hid my car keys just as I was leaving to catch a flight, causing me to miss it and have to pay hundreds for a new ticket. In each photo, they were laughing. In each photo, I was trying to smile through obvious hurt. That's not a prank. That's abuse, Nathan had said. The words played on repeat in my mind. I opened my notes app and began to type, cataloging years of pranks, dismissals, and occasions where I'd bent over backward to help them with no reciprocation. The list grew longer and longer as memories surfaced, some I hadn't thought about in years. By the time I finished, it was past midnight, and my battery was at 5%. As I set my phone aside to preserve the remaining battery, a strange calm settled over me. I decided right then that I was done being their punching bag. Whatever happened tomorrow, things would be different. I would be different. I stretched out on the small couch, using my coat as a blanket, and despite the circumstances, I fell into the deepest, most peaceful sleep I'd had in years. It was as if a weight had been lifted, the weight of constantly seeking approval from people who would never give it. I woke to gentle knocking and Nathan's voice. Ashley? It's 7 a.m. I brought coffee and some breakfast. I sat up, disoriented for a moment, before remembering where I was and why. Despite sleeping on a small office couch, I felt surprisingly rested. Perhaps the emotional release of the previous night had allowed me to truly relax for the first time in years. Nathan entered with 2 paper cups of coffee and a paper bag that smelled wonderfully of fresh pastries. "How did you sleep?" he asked. "Better than I expected," I admitted, accepting the coffee gratefully. "Thank you for this, for everything." "No problem," he said, sitting in the desk chair across from me. "I spoke to my cousin this morning. She runs a small B&B about 15 minutes from here. She has a room available if you need a place to stay." I checked my phone, which I'd managed to charge a little using Nathan's charger. There were 27 missed calls and over 50 text messages from my family. I skimmed through them quickly. 10:30 p.m. Mom. Ashley, stop ignoring us. It was just a joke. 11:15 p.m. Dad. You're being childish. Call your mother before she gets worried. 12:08 a.m. Jason. Come on, it was funny. You have to admit it was good. 1:30 a.m. Brittany. Everyone thinks you're overreacting. It's embarrassing. 3:45 a.m. Mom. We'll come get you in the morning. This silent treatment is ridiculous. 6:15 a.m. Dad. We're leaving in an hour to pick you up. Be ready. I put the phone down and took a deep breath. They're coming to get me, I said to Nathan. But I don't think I want to see them yet. He nodded understandingly. The B&B offer stands. It's $60 a night, but my cousin said she'd give you the friends and family rate. I'll take it, I decided immediately. I need time to think. As Nathan called his cousin to confirm, I began formulating a plan. My first instinct was to lash out, to call my family and scream at them about how hurtful their prank had been. But I knew from experience that would only reinforce their view of me as oversensitive and unable to take a joke. Instead, I needed a different approach. I opened my notes app and started a new list. 1. No immediate reaction. Let them think I'm still upset but compliant. 2. Documentation. Save all messages and record calls if necessary. 3. Boundaries. Make a list of all the times I've helped them without recognition. 4. Consequences. Prepare specific, impactful consequences for each family member. By the time my family texted that they were 15 minutes away, I had my strategy clear in my mind. I texted back, politely declining their ride. No need to come to the station. I've found another solution. I'll be at the house later today for our planned family meeting. Please make sure everyone is present. The response was immediate and confused. Mom, family meeting? What family meeting? Dad. Don't be dramatic, Ashley. We're already on our way. Jason. What solution? Where are you staying? Brittany. Are you still mad? It was just a joke. I didn't respond to any of their questions. Instead, I accepted Nathan's offer to drive me to his cousin's B&B, a charming Victorian house converted into a small hotel. The owner, Sarah, was warm and welcoming, showing me to a cozy room with a private bathroom and breakfast included in the rate. Nathan told me what happened, she said kindly. Stay as long as you need. I spent the morning refining my plan. First, I went through my email and text history, saving evidence of every time I dropped everything to help a family member. Jason's website design that should have cost thousands, but I did for free. Brittany's wedding planning. The hours spent helping my parents with their taxes, home renovations, and technology issues. Next, I made a list of the pranks they'd played on me over the years, adding notes about how each one had impacted me emotionally and practically. Missed flights, ruined celebrations, public humiliation, all carefully documented with dates and details. Finally, I prepared my statement for the family meeting, practicing it until I could deliver it calmly and clearly, without breaking down or showing the anger I rightfully felt. At 3 p.m, I called a taxi to take me to my parents' house. As I approached their front door, I felt a strange sense of detachment, as if I was observing myself from outside my body. For the first time in my life, I wasn't anxious about their reaction or desperate for their approval. I was simply there to stand up for myself. I knocked on the door instead of using my key, a small but symbolic act of establishing myself as a visitor, rather than the perpetually available family member they'd taken for granted. My mother opened the door, her expression a mixture of relief and irritation. Finally, where have you been? We were worried sick. No, you weren't, I replied calmly. But we can discuss that during our meeting. Is everyone here? She seemed taken aback by my composure. Meeting? Ashley, don't you think you're making too big a deal out of a harmless prank? I met her gaze steadily. Is everyone here? I repeated. Yes, we're all in the living room, she said, stepping aside to let me in. But I don't understand why you're being so formal about this. I entered the house, the familiar smell of Mom's cinnamon apple potpourri filling the air. Christmas decorations adorned every surface, the tree in the corner loaded with ornaments, stockings hung on the fireplace, and lights twinkling around the windows. It would have been beautiful if not for the tension hanging in the air. In the living room, my father, brother, and sister sat waiting, Dad looked annoyed. Jason seemed amused, and Brittany was scrolling through her phone, barely acknowledging my entrance. "Look who finally decided to grace us with her presence," my father said sarcastically. "Where did you stay last night? We were concerned when you weren't at the station this morning." "The station attendant helped me find accommodation," I answered simply. "I appreciate you all gathering for this conversation. It's important." "Ooh, the station attendant," Brittany mocked, looking up from her phone. "Did you make a new friend? Was he cute?" "That's not relevant," I said, taking a seat across from them. "What's relevant is what happened yesterday and what happens next." They exchanged glances, clearly confused by my demeanor. They had expected tears, shouting, or sulking, their usual triggers for calling me oversensitive. My calm approach had thrown them off balance, which was exactly what I wanted. "Ashley, it was just a joke," my brother said, laughing slightly. "We picked you up this morning, didn't we?" "Well, we would have if you'd been there." "Yeah," Brittany chimed in. "I don't see why we need to have a whole family meeting about it." I took a deep breath, ready to implement the plan I'd been refining all morning. It was time to set boundaries that should have been established years ago. "Before I start," I said calmly, placing my phone on the coffee table between us, "I want to make it clear that I'm recording this conversation for my own reference. I hope that's okay with everyone." This immediately changed the atmosphere in the room. My father shifted uncomfortably, my mother's smile faltered, and even Jason and Brittany exchanged uncertain glances. "Why would you need to record a family conversation?" my father asked, a note of suspicion in his voice. "Because I want to make sure I remember exactly what's said today," I explained. "This is important to me." No one objected further, so I pressed record and began. "What happened yesterday wasn't a prank," I stated clearly. "A prank is something that causes momentary confusion or surprise, then everyone laughs together. What you did was deliberately strand me in freezing weather, with no way to get to safety, and then laugh at my distress. That's not a prank. That's cruelty." "Oh, come on," Jason interrupted. "It wasn't that bad. You found a place to stay, didn't you?" "Yes, thanks to the kindness of a complete stranger," I replied. "Not thanks to my family, who were supposed to care about my well-being." "We knew you'd figure something out," my mother said defensively. "You're a resourceful girl." "That's not the point," I continued. "The point is that this is part of a pattern that's existed my entire life. You all treat me with a fundamental lack of respect that you don't show to each other or to anyone else outside this family." I opened the Notes app on my phone and began reading from the list I'd compiled. When Jason needed help moving 3 times last year, I took time off work to help him. When Brittany got engaged, I spent hundreds of hours planning her wedding for free. When Mom and Dad renovated the house, I used my vacation time to help them. I looked up. "Can any of you name a single time you've done something similar for me?" The silence that followed was telling. My father cleared his throat but didn't speak. My mother looked away. Jason examined his fingernails, and Brittany continued scrolling on her phone, though I could tell she wasn't really looking at anything. "I've spent years trying to earn your respect and consideration," I continued. "I thought if I was helpful enough, supportive enough, available enough, you would eventually treat me the way you treat each other. But I've realized that's never going to happen because you don't see anything wrong with how you treat me." "That's not fair," my mother protested weakly. "We love you, Ashley." "I believe you do," I acknowledged. "But you don't respect me. And without respect, love becomes toxic." I pulled out a folder containing printed emails, text conversations, and a detailed timeline of pranks they'd played on me over the years. "This is documentation of how your jokes have affected me," I said, placing the folder on the table. "Missed flights, ruined celebrations, professional embarrassments, and emotional distress. I'm not showing you this to make you feel guilty, but to help you understand why things are going to change." "Change how?" my father asked, his voice now more wary than annoyed. I took a deep breath. This was the moment of truth, the part of my plan I'd been most anxious about. But seeing their reaction so far had strengthened my resolve. "From now on, my relationship with each of you will be conditional on your respect for my boundaries," I stated firmly. and there will be consequences for crossing those boundaries. I turned to my brother. Jason, I will no longer be providing free graphic design work for your business website. The work I've done for you would have cost thousands with any professional designer. If you want my services in the future, you'll pay my professional rate. Jason's mouth fell open. But we had an agreement. You said you'd help me with the spring campaign. That agreement was based on the assumption that you respected me, I replied. Yesterday proved that's not the case. I turned to Brittany. Brittany, I will no longer be serving as your wedding photographer or providing free childcare for your future children, as we previously discussed. You'll need to hire professionals for both. What? Brittany shrieked, finally looking up from her phone. But we already told everyone you're doing the photography, and we were counting on you for babysitting. You should have thought about that before participating in abandoning me at a train station, I said calmly. Finally, I addressed my parents. Mom and Dad, I won't be helping with your planned move to the new house next summer, nor will I be contributing to the down payment as promised. My father's face reddened. That's $5,000 we were counting on. You can't just back out now. Actually, I can, I stated. It was a gift, not an obligation. And gifts should come from mutual respect, not one-sided exploitation. For a moment, there was stunned silence. Then, as I had expected, the reactions came all at once. You're overreacting. It was just a joke. This is ridiculous. You can't do this. I let them vent for a few minutes, their voices overlapping as they protested. When they finally quieted down, I continued. There's one more thing, I said. I'll be taking a 6-month break from all contact with this family. No calls, no texts, no visits. I need time to heal from years of being treated as less important than everyone else. 6 months? My mother exclaimed, tears forming in her eyes. But what about Easter and your father's birthday? I won't be attending, I said simply. This isn't a negotiation. It's a boundary I'm setting for my own well-being. You can't be serious, my father said, his voice now more pleading than angry. Ashley, this is your family. Yes, and families are supposed to support and respect each other, I replied. When you're ready to do that, we can discuss rebuilding our relationship. I stood up and walked to where my suitcase sat by the door, the suitcase full of carefully selected gifts they would now never receive. As I grasped the handle, my family seemed to realize I was actually leaving. Wait, you're going now? But it's Christmas Eve tomorrow, Brittany protested. I'm aware of the date, I said. I planned my vacation time specifically to be here with all of you. But after what happened, I don't feel safe or respected in this house. So you're just going to leave? Over one joke that went too far? Jason asked, incredulous. No, I corrected him. I'm leaving because of a lifetime of jokes that went too far, and a family that never thought my feelings mattered. My mother rushed over, tears now streaming down her face. Please, Ashley, don't do this. We can talk about it. We just did talk about it, I pointed out. And the first response from all of you was to dismiss my feelings and defend your actions. That tells me nothing has changed. My father approached, attempting a different tack. I'm sorry if you felt hurt by what happened. We never meant to cause you any real distress. I noticed the careful phrasing. Sorry if you felt hurt rather than sorry we hurt you. It was the same non-apology I'd received countless times before. I know you don't think you did anything wrong, I said. That's exactly why I need this break. I called a taxi using the app on my phone. As I waited for it to arrive, my family continued their protests, cycling through anger, pleading, and guilt-tripping. My mother claimed I was tearing the family apart. My father said I was overreacting to a harmless joke. Jason suggested I needed therapy for being so sensitive, and Brittany accused me of ruining Christmas for everyone. When the taxi pulled up outside, I picked up my suitcase and headed for the door. My father made one last attempt. Ashley, please, we're your family. Don't throw that away over something so small. I turned to face them all one final time. It's not small to me, and I'm not throwing anything away. I'm just not letting you walk all over me anymore. With those words, I walked out of the house, closing the door firmly behind me. As the taxi pulled away, I felt no regret, no uncertainty, only a profound sense of relief and the first stirrings of long overdue self-respect. The first month without contact was both harder and easier than I expected. Harder because years of conditioning had taught me to be constantly available to my family, to prioritize their needs and wants above my own. Easier because the peace of not walking on eggshells, not bracing for the next prank, not constantly seeking approval that never came, was like taking a deep breath after years of suffocation. My phone exploded with messages in those first weeks. They ranged from angry, "You're being childish and selfish," to pleading, "Please come back, we miss you," to manipulative, "Your mother cried all night because of what you did." I read them all but responded to none, staying true to my 6-month boundary. Back in Chicago, I threw myself into work with a new sense of focus and confidence. My boss noticed the change immediately. "Whatever happened over Christmas, it suits you," he commented after I presented a particularly bold campaign concept. "You're speaking up more in meetings, defending your ideas. I like it." What he didn't know was that defending my ideas to clients was easy after standing up to my family. If I could hold firm against the people who had known exactly how to manipulate me for 28 years, I could certainly hold my ground in a boardroom. I also developed an unexpected friendship with Nathan, the station attendant. We kept in touch via text, occasionally chatting about his therapy studies or my design projects. There was no romantic spark, just the genuine connection of two people who respected each other's boundaries, something I was still getting used to. My colleagues became a support system I hadn't realized I needed. When I finally told them the full story of what had happened at Christmas, their reactions confirmed what I had begun to understand. My family's behavior wasn't normal or acceptable. "That's not a prank," echoed Lindsay, our copywriter. "That's emotional abuse. If anyone in my family did that to me, I wouldn't speak to them for years, let alone months," added Marcus from the marketing team. Their validation helped solidify my resolve during moments of doubt. The late nights when family conditioning would whisper that I was overreacting, that family should always come first, that blood is thicker than water. I also started therapy, something I should have done years ago. My therapist, Dr. Reeves, helped me understand the dynamics that had shaped my family relationships. "You were cast in the role of family scapegoat," she explained during one session. "That's why the pranks always targeted you specifically. Your family needed someone to absorb all the negative emotions they couldn't process themselves." Understanding the pattern didn't excuse it, but it helped me process my feelings about it. I grieved for the supportive family I'd never had, for the years spent trying to earn love that should have been freely given, for the younger version of myself who thought she deserved to be treated as less than. 3 months into my self-imposed separation, I received an email from my brother Jason. Unlike the previous messages demanding I get over it or accusing me of destroying the family, this one was different. "I've been thinking a lot about what you said at Christmas," he wrote. "At first, I was angry because it felt like you were attacking all of us. But the more I thought about it, the more I realized you were right. We've treated you differently than we treat each other, and it wasn't fair. I'm sorry. Not sorry if you felt hurt, but sorry that I hurt you. If you're willing to talk, I'd like to understand better how to fix this." I sat with his message for several days before responding. While I appreciated what seemed like genuine remorse, I was wary of being pulled back into old patterns. Eventually, I replied with clear conditions for a meeting: public place, limited time, no pressure to resume regular contact afterward. We met at a coffee shop in Chicago, neutral territory for both of us. The conversation was awkward at first, with long pauses and careful wording, but gradually, something shifted. For perhaps the first time, Jason really listened to me, not to formulate a defense or to find weaknesses in my argument, but to understand. "I never thought about how our pranks affected you long term," he admitted. "For me, they were just funny moments. But hearing how they made you feel, I wouldn't want anyone to treat me that way." "That's all I've been trying to say," I told him. "I don't want special treatment. I just want the same respect you'd give to anyone else." By the end of our 2-hour conversation, we had reached a tentative understanding. He acknowledged the harm that had been done, and I acknowledged his effort to make amends. It wasn't a complete reconciliation, but it was a start. As the 6-month mark approached, my parents and sister also reached out individually. My father's email was stiff and formal, more focused on logistics than emotions, but it contained what seemed like a sincere apology. My mother called and left a tearful voicemail, asking if we could put this behind us. Brittany sent a text that managed to be both apologetic and self-centered. Classic Brittany, but with a new awareness that had been missing before. I decided to agree to a family therapy session with all of us present. Dr. Reeves recommended a colleague who specialized in family dynamics, and we scheduled a meeting for exactly 6 months and 1 day after our Christmas confrontation. The session was intense. Old patterns threatened to resurface. My mother's tears when confronted with uncomfortable truths, my father's authoritative dismissals, Jason's jokes to diffuse tension, Brittany's phone as a shield against engagement. But the therapist skillfully redirected these behaviors, creating space for real communication. "What I'm hearing," the therapist said after nearly 2 hours of difficult conversation, "is that this family has well-established roles that no longer serve any of you." Ashley was assigned the role of scapegoat and caretaker, which allowed the rest of you to avoid addressing certain uncomfortable realities about yourselves and your relationships. My parents shifted uncomfortably at this assessment, but didn't dispute it. Jason nodded thoughtfully. Brittany, surprisingly, was the most receptive. "I never thought about it that way," she said. "But it's true. When we were picking on Ashley, we weren't fighting with each other." It wasn't a magical solution. One therapy session couldn't undo decades of unhealthy dynamics, but it was a beginning, a framework for building something new from the ashes of what had been burned away. Over the following months, our relationships gradually reformed on new terms. My mother struggled the most with the new boundaries, occasionally slipping into old patterns of guilt-tripping and emotional manipulation. My father, surprisingly, adapted more readily, perhaps because the clear structure of boundaries and consequences made sense to his accountant's mind. By the following Christmas, 1 year after the train station incident, we had established a new normal. It wasn't perfect, but it was healthier. The pranks had stopped entirely. My help was requested, not expected. My opinions were considered, not dismissed. And perhaps most importantly, I no longer measured my worth by their approval. I chose to spend that Christmas in Chicago, hosting a small gathering for friends rather than traveling to Michigan. Some family members visited for a day, an arrangement that gave us quality time together without the pressure of sustained proximity. It was different, but it was good. As I reflect on everything that happened, I realize that being stranded at that train station was actually a gift, the catalyst I needed to break free from patterns that had been slowly suffocating me for years. Sometimes you have to cancel toxic expectations to make room for healthy relationships. There's a crucial difference between pranks and cruelty. Pranks make everyone laugh, including the target. Cruelty disguised as humor is just bullying with a convenient excuse. Boundaries aren't selfish. They're necessary for any healthy relationship. And sometimes the most loving thing you can do for yourself and others is to say no more to treatment that diminishes your spirit. I've learned that family isn't just about blood. It's about respect, reciprocity, and genuine care. And I've built a chosen family of friends and colleagues who celebrate my successes without needing to tear me down. So if you're watching this and recognizing patterns from your own life, remember, you deserve respect. You deserve consideration. And sometimes, the bravest thing you can do is cancel the roles others have assigned you and write your own story instead. If this video resonated with you, please hit the like button and subscribe to my channel. I'd love to hear in the comments about boundaries you've set in your own relationships or situations where you've had to stand up for yourself. Have you ever had to cancel toxic family dynamics? How did you handle it? Your experiences might help someone else find the courage to make a change. Thank you for watching, and remember, your worth isn't determined by how others treat you. It's inherent, unchangeable, and completely yours.